Welcome to Nerd Alert! This week we have a very special guest. Being that this week falls on May the 4th, we wanted to do something Star Wars related. But this guy is he's worked on a lot of films. I don't even know if we could just go towards Star Wars. It's Fon Davis.
Hi.
He is an effects artist extraordinaire, and he has a 4-page IMDb page. He's worked on Guardians of the Galaxy, Elysium, Transformers, Dark Side of the Moon, Mission Impossible 3, The Island, Star Wars Episodes 1, 2, and 3, the special editions of Star Wars Episodes 4, 5, and 6, Starship Troopers, Jurassic Park 3, Pearl Harbor, The Mummy Returns, Galaxy Quest, The Matrix Reloaded, Planet of the Apes. It just goes on and on and on. I can't spend the whole time doing this. I thought you were going to do the whole list.
That's amazing.
It's so
funny.
Freaking long.
It's weird to hear it because it all happens very, very slowly, all that.
Yeah, it's incredible. So right now you are working as a creative director at New Deal, and You're also an instructor for the Stan Winston Studio, the legendary Stan Winston Studio.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
The Stan Winston School or New Deal?
Whatever, everything.
Okay.
It's
New
all
Deal
really
Studios,
impressive.
as a creative director, I meet with directors, visual effects supervisors, producers, and we figure out what part of the project we can do at New Deal Studios. And New Deal it's a really broad studio in the sense that they do computer graphics as well as a lot of practical visual effects, which is kind of a niche because not a lot of people do miniatures and practical effects.
So, you seem to be like the leader in a field that's getting smaller and smaller these days as visual effects. And
yeah, it's funny. There's a lot more practical visual effects being used in movies today than most people realize.
Good.
And I'm very proud to say that you don't notice it, and that's why you don't know we're doing it.
Well, there's a certain charm.
But that means we're doing our job right.
Yeah.
Oddly.
Well, that's
good.
To
be not noticed in visual effects is the goal, really.
Just tell me about your work in the Star Wars movies.
That was actually, Star Wars was pretty awesome for me because I grew up on all the Star Wars movies.
Of course.
And I just kind of kept steering my career towards ILM. I moved to San Francisco in the late 80s, and I didn't even know Lucasfilm was there when I moved there.
It was just a nice coincidence.
It was just like, well, I knew I wanted to work in entertainment. And then I found out they were there, and I just kind of kept my career going in that direction. And I was actually in stop motion when I started. So I was with Henry Selick, and we did Nightmare Before Christmas and James and Giant Peach.
I didn't mention that, but
and
my gosh.
You don't have to mention all of it. Anyway, but eventually I did finally get a job at ILM, and one of the first things they started doing when I got there was the special editions, which was, mind-blowing for me because, that's what I grew up with. Like literally the movies I grew up with that inspired me to get into the industry were the movies I was working on. Not a sequel, but the actual movies. So it's like time travel.
What was your favorite part about that? Or what was your favorite element that maybe you had a hand in?
For the special editions, mostly what we did was restoring a lot of the old props. And to me, that was a lot of fun because that was nostalgic. Being able to paint an R2-D2 or fix Boba Fett's backpack or, fix Stormtrooper rifles, because they get dropped and broken a lot.
They're not super good at holding the guns or aiming them properly.
Have you ever worn a Stormtrooper suit?
No, I haven't.
It's a little tricky because you can't see very well in the suits.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but
it's a design flaw.
Yeah, and then oddly, when we started on the prequels, I mean, it was an incredible job. I love my work, but it didn't have the feeling that I thought it might in terms of the nostalgia. So the special editions were definitely more nostalgic than working on the prequels. Until you're dealing with something like R2-D2 or something that was from the original series,
that's
right?
there for the fans.
Yeah, right. And everything that was new was just like every other project we did, which was awesome, but it wasn't nostalgic. So it was kind of an interesting.
It's a new adventure.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Absolutely.
And you were in a lot of the crowd scenes, you told me?
Yeah. That was one of the advantages of working at ILM at the time is when they needed to shoot crowds of people, they would often just grab a bunch of us and we'd get to put on the costumes and, walk around or celebrate, in the Coruscant celebration actually 3 times because the crowd they shot was only 1/3 of the celebration each time.
Oh.
So.
What costumes did you end up wearing?
Barada was one of them, and then I wore a Weequay costume. So I was 2 creatures, and then I was just myself.
Okay.
For the 3rd. But yeah, it was amazing. And then we got to do. It was just a very, very fun time, and a lot of great, exciting things happening. We did a photo shoot for the Star Wars Visual Dictionary, and Don Bees was a good friend of mine. And most Star Wars fans know who Don Bees is. He's pretty famous for being the R2-D2 operator and lead on the prequels R2-D2 team. But he actually invited a bunch of us over to do. To play the Cantina band for the Visual Dictionary. So I got to be Doik Nats.
No!
In
No
that book.
way.
Which was hilarious because I always had long hair, and that particular month I just decided to shave my head bald.
Going to add
It looked very
this later in post.
intentional.
What instrument did you play?
I don't know what you, oh boy, I should know that, I'm sorry,
Cool.
I don't.
We'll figure it out.
Whatever instrument Doik Nats plays,
I do
guess.
know that the style of music they play is called jizz music. Just FYI. Back to the interview.
Awkward.
A little bit. So what have you noticed trends changing in visual effects over the years, or have you been working on different things?
Oh yeah, visual effects is one of those fields that is always changing. It's one of the reasons I like it, because I love variety in my work. I like to be challenged in new ways all the time. And it's been a roller coaster ride. It's been amazing, because I started in stop motion, and Henry Selick, when we did Nightmare Before Christmas, wanted to do everything in camera. So we had, we were double exposing film. We were using beam splitter ghost effects, where you shoot into a piece of glass and reflect Zero, the ghost dog. And
Oh, like in the Haunted Mansion.
yeah, it was a really great
Wow.
foundation for the whole rest of my career, because it was all practical on film. And then while we were at ILM, of course, George Lucas is constantly innovating. So we worked with, we started the transition into technology-based fabrication like CNC, 3D printing, and laser cutting, and all this kind of great stuff, and 3D scanning, and motion capture. And then also just working on a lot of other projects. It's the technology on the practical side and also in the computer graphics side has just been changing constantly. So we're always learning and kind of adapting to those things. And I've had the opportunity to now also work on full CG features too.
Oh.
And then work on pipelines between practical and CG. So there's just so much there. There's so much to do. There's so much to explore, so much to learn.
A lot
It's
of
awesome.
practical effects artists are not entirely amenable to the CG trends. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's actually short-sighted. This is just my perspective on
Sure,
it.
sure.
I feel like it's a little short-sighted on both sides if you think everything should be done practically, or you think everything should be done in computer graphics. Because they both have really, really incredible tools. They both will save you a ton of money and give you a better end result if you use them correctly with each other. Like where would it be without compositing? I mean, it's opened the door to so many, great visual effects scenes and effects elements.
So you need a little of both, or
Yeah,
a lot
well,
of both, maybe.
Yeah, well, for me, I've always had to, because I ran my own studio for a while, and also just to stay working, it helps to really broaden your skill set. If you're a generalist, you're brought in at the beginning of a project and you run all the way through the entire project. If you specialize, then you're just brought in for that one aspect of the job. And since I've always been one to kind of also be on the innovation side, I'm brought in sometimes to develop these things, which is great.
Is that, tell me a little bit about what you're doing with the Stan Winston School. You told me you're doing instructional videos that are
Yes.
probably available now for
Yeah.
everyone to watch.
I actually have. I'll go ahead and plug them. I have
Yes.
2 DVDs on Amazon.com, Introduction to Professional Model Making, and then Foam Core Model Making as well. I actually started doing education in Northern California before I moved down to LA. And because I always felt like, there's a need to teach people these techniques that aren't really available in schools and things like that. And there's so much enthusiasm behind it. I love being part of like the greater creative community. And I have a relationship with Make Magazine because of that. And I just think it's at a very exciting time, because people are so actively pursuing making things with their hands, creating things.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see what everyone does with that knowledge.
It's a really cool and niche skill to have.
Yeah.
So go look for Fawn's instructional videos.
Yep, and then now most of my future stuff will be with the Stan Winston School. Because when I moved down here, New Deal Studios happened to house the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. So I'm like, they have the office next to me. I was like, I'm gonna go visit these guys and see what they're up to. So yeah, it's really, really fun. We just did a thing on how to build a sci-fi helmet in your own vacuum forming machine.
Really? And I could go watch those now.
I think they're cutting it together right now. We did the live show already, and now we're cutting that together.
Very interesting.
That
I
will
did
be
see their
available.
videos on the Jurassic Park, like how they made the velociraptors work.
Yeah.
And all of that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I'm also
and
a
so
huge
well
fan
done.
of their school. I mean, they are revealing all the tricks and the secrets to creature design and creation. And it's just an amazing time, I think, for me, because growing up, I wanted to do this stuff. I wanted to make all these, I made so many robots and didn't finish them because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the Stan Winston School, we didn't have all the resources that are available today. And now it's like, boy, you can do anything. Filmmakers, it's very exciting to see what people are doing with independent film and web series, and it's an exciting time. It is.
These days.
And I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm happy that New Deal Studios also has that culture of trying to be a part of that community. It's not just about the work. It's about creativity. It's about being an incubator for ideas.
I'm glad that that's being inspired still and being held on to.
It is. It is, and that's what keeps a lot of people in the industry, even though it's very difficult at times, is that love of creativity.
Very good.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you, Fawn.
Sure.
Have you been contracted to work on the new Star Wars movies?
I cannot confirm or deny anything having to do with the new Star Wars movies.
Guys,
No, I'm
just...
No. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not. Even if I did know, I couldn't say.
Yes.
It's one of those
course.
things.
That's one of those things I kind of
sensitive.
have to ask and then stare at you and try to figure it out. But we'll look more on that soon because we're going to be talking a lot about Star Wars today, and it's all going to be with Fawn, who, as I'm sure you've discovered, is pretty damn cool. Stick around, and thanks for joining us this week, Fawn.
You bet. Glad to be here.